Welcome to this explainer on the Moog revolution. Today, we're tracing a fascinating historical journey, the transformation of the synthesizer from a purely mathematical engineering task into a deeply expressive art form. This is the story of how the cold, calculated logic of physics was carefully bridged to the warm, unpredictable reality of human emotion. To really understand this shift, we need to look back at the historical context. Prior to the 1960s, electronic music wasn't actually something you performed, it was something you engineered. If you wanted to conjure a sound from pure electricity, you essentially needed a PhD. You'd be working among imposing, room-sized computers and complex arrays of vacuum tubes, spending grueling hours manually splicing magnetic tape. It was a painstaking exercise in patience and extreme technical precision, far removed from the spontaneity of a live musical performance.
The core problem of that era was one of interface. Early electronic equipment was physically daunting. Imagine a massive wall of countless dangling patch cables, looking far more like a telephone exchange than a musical instrument. The profound challenge was figuring out how to take that chaotic process of generating sound and connect it to an intuitive, elegant interface, much like the familiar black and white keys of a traditional piano.
The elegant solution came from a soft-spoken New York engineer named Robert Moog. Moog didn't just build a machine, he meticulously engineered a bridge between that cold logic of physics and the warm, messy reality of human emotion. He brought the process out of the sterile, imposing laboratory and directly into the intimate realm of the musical workshop. This fundamentally changed how electronic instruments were conceived.
The critical engineering breakthrough that made all of this possible is known as voltage control. Beneath the surface of analog circuits and copper wiring lies immense complexity. Before Moog came along, if you wanted to change the pitch or the volume of an electronic sound, you actually had to manually adjust massive pieces of equipment for every single note you wished to record. Voltage control replaced that tedious, mechanical process entirely.
The practical application of this voltage control was absolutely ingenious. Moog realized that he could use small amounts of electricity, specifically voltage, to tell discrete components what to do without needing to move physical cables. One voltage could instruct an oscillator on exactly what pitch to play, while another distinct voltage instructed a filter on how bright or dark to make the resulting sound.
This technological leap is what finally allowed a traditional keyboard interface to be attached to the machinery. But Moog's true genius lay in his understanding of the musician's experience. He realized that the fundamental design of an instrument simply must be tactile. Musicians need to physically touch, shape, and interact with their sound in real time. They require a direct physical connection to the electronic output. He achieved this tactile expression by introducing a concept known as the envelope generator. This is broken down into 4 distinct stages: attack, decay, sustain, and release. By allowing the musician to manipulate these specific parameters, a player could suddenly control the precise contour and life cycle of a note over time. This interface is exactly what allowed the synthesizer to step beyond mere continuous tones and begin mimicking the physical behavior of acoustic instruments. It gave raw electricity a human pulse.
Consider the extreme dynamic contrast found in acoustic music. On one hand, you have the sharp, immediate action of a violin bow striking a string. On the other, the slow, breathing swell of massive church organ pipes. With the envelope generator structure in place, the electronic synthesizer could confidently mimic both of these incredibly different dynamic behaviors, and it did so using exactly the same electrical principles. The machine was now fully capable of true musical articulation.
By the year 1970, this entire revolution finally went portable. This happened with the release of the Moog Model D. Featuring a rich wood casing and its iconic 3-oscillator layout, it completely transformed the landscape of electronic music. It traded that confusing, intimidating maze of patch cables for a beautifully portable fixed path of knobs and switches. It was a completely self-contained unit that any traditional keyboardist could immediately look at, understand, and play without needing a degree in electrical engineering.
Once this highly accessible design hit recording studios, its cultural impact was immediate and profound. Brilliant artists across multiple genres recognized its vast potential. Stevie Wonder utilized this portable design to create his famous, bubbling funk bass lines, while musicians like Keith Emerson used it to blast soaring, complex leads over massive stadium crowds. The very sound of the 70s was fundamentally shaped by this specific instrument.
During that decade, a major cultural shift occurred. The musical world quickly realized that the synthesizer was not a mere gimmick, and it was certainly no longer just a laboratory novelty. It had genuinely become the new violin. Alongside the electric guitar, it stood firmly on its own as a foundational instrument of modern musical performance.
Reflecting on Robert Moog's life, it becomes clear that his legacy extends far beyond a simple feat of engineering. He provided us not just with a new category of sound, but with a fundamentally new way to feel. By harnessing raw voltage and presenting it through a musical, tactile keyboard, he literally took the invisible forces of the universe and placed them directly at our fingertips.
The ultimate takeaway from the Moog revolution is profound. Even in a highly sophisticated world built entirely of wires, analog circuits, and transistors, the machine itself is only half the equation. The most vital component of the instrument remains the soul of the performer, utilizing that remarkable technology to express our shared humanity.
This was brought to you by Notes and Silences. Thank you for listening.